The hologram flickered to life, casting an eerie blue glow over the command center. General Xalantha's smug grin filled the room, his alien features sharp and calculating as he addressed the officers of the Terran Empire. Primitive. Ridiculous. How can a fleet of these obsolete machines possibly stand against the might of our armada? Adrian Graves, seated in the dimly lit command post, leaned forward. His calloused hands gripped the edge of the console, knuckles whitening. The image of the alien general loomed large on the screen, accompanied by the sneers of his subordinates. Xalanth was right about one thing: humanity's forces were outclassed. In sheer firepower and technology, they didn't stand a chance. But there was something he didn't understand. The aliens didn't know who they were dealing with. Beside Adrian, Sergeant Mia Alvarez rolled her eyes. She had seen this kind of arrogance before, alien invaders underestimating human resolve, dismissing Earth's resources as laughable. But every time, humanity had come out on top. "You've got to be kidding me," Mia muttered, tapping a few keys on her console to zoom in on the alien fleet. The sheer scale of their armada was overwhelming, ships the size of cities, their sleek, polished surfaces reflecting the stars like predatory eyes. It was enough to make anyone with less than a century of combat experience tremble. Adrian studied the screen, his face expressionless. The aliens thought their size and technology made them invincible. But humanity had something they didn't: ingenuity. The M1 Abrams tanks, outdated by alien standards, were brutal, relentless, and unpredictable. "Stay focused, Sergeant," Adrian said, his voice steady. "They're about to learn what happens when you underestimate humanity." Mia's lips twitched into a half-smile. "Let's hope they learn fast." The room fell into silence as the countdown began. Earth's defenses were a joke to the alien general, but Adrian and his team had a plan. They didn't have the luxury of advanced weaponry or shields. They had brains, courage, and a surprising secret weapon, the M1 Abrams. Adrian looked around the room, meeting the eyes of his officers. They were nervous, but there was something else beneath that: determination. No one in the room was fooled by Xalantha's bravado. This fight was far from over. "We're not giving up," Adrian continued, his voice resonating with authority. "We're going to give them a fight they'll remember. No one's leaving this planet without knowing exactly what humanity is capable of." Mia's gaze sharpened as the battle alarms blared. "Sir, we've got incoming. They've entered the atmosphere." Adrian's eyes narrowed. The countdown was over. The aliens had arrived. "Deploy the tanks," Adrian ordered. "This isn't a game anymore." Outside, the vast alien fleet dropped into Earth's skies, their ships blotting out the stars. The first wave of invaders descended, humanoid soldiers clad in organic armor, their weapons gleaming with deadly precision. It was a grim sight, but Adrian's mind was already calculating. Each alien vessel was a target, each soldier a potential weakness. "Brace yourselves," Adrian muttered under his breath. "Let's see if they can handle the real fight." Mia's hand hovered over the controls, a quick glance at Adrian's face confirming her determination. The crew was ready. The tanks roared to life, engines vibrating the ground beneath them as they rolled forward to engage the alien forces. This wasn't just a fight for survival, it was a fight for respect. The first shot rang out, a deafening crack of gunfire that split the air like thunder. Adrian's tank fired, its cannon sending a shockwave through the terrain as the first alien soldier crumpled to the ground in a pile of glowing, severed limbs. The alien forces were confused, their advanced weapons ill-suited for this kind of battlefield. They had expected precision, technology that could overwhelm. Instead, they faced a relentless assault, with every human soldier digging into the dirt, relying on their grit and training rather than relying on superior tech. "Don't let up!" Adrian shouted, his voice crackling over the comms. "Every alien soldier that steps foot on this planet will know their mistake." The M1 Abrams moved like a beast on the battlefield, turning the terrain into an unforgiving hell for the invaders. Alien soldiers scrambled to regroup, but Adrian was already 3 steps ahead. He had anticipated their tactics, exploiting their overconfidence. Humanity's strength had always been its ability to adapt, to fight when the odds were stacked against them. Adrian watched through the tank's viewport as the alien forces faltered, their once immense superiority beginning to crumble. It wasn't victory yet, but the tides were turning. Mia's voice came through the comms. "Sir, they're pulling back. They didn't expect this. They're regrouping." Adrian allowed himself a grim smile. "Let them regroup. They haven't even seen what we're capable of." As the first alien ship crashed to the ground, the fight had only just begun. The alien retreat, if it could be called that, was anything but graceful. Adrian Graves watched from the hatch of his M1 Abrams as the once dominant fleet hesitated in the skies above. The roar of their ship's engines, a low hum in the distance, didn't mask the anxious shuffle of the alien soldiers below. Their retreat wasn't out of fear, they were regrouping, recalculating. But humanity had already thrown them off balance. "Stay sharp, Sergeant," Adrian called over the comms, eyes scanning the battlefield. His fingers tightened around the tank's controls as another alien vessel zipped overhead, releasing a burst of weapons fire. Mia Alvarez's voice crackled back. "Don't worry, sir. I'm not planning on giving them a chance to catch their breath." The sound of weapons fire echoed in the distance, joining the chaotic symphony of battle. Adrian could feel the tension in the air. They weren't just fighting for survival now, they were fighting to prove something. "I don't care if they think we're primitive," Adrian muttered, more to himself than to Mia. "This is our planet. And no one, gets to take that from us." Mia's laugh came through, warm and knowing. "Just make sure they remember that, sir." The roar of a distant explosion rattled the ground beneath them. The alien forces had regrouped, now they were coming at full strength. Adrian's heart raced, but his eyes remained steady. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't in the tanks or the soldiers, it was in their ability to adapt. And he wasn't going to let that ability go to waste. "Deploy all tanks," Adrian ordered. "We're hitting them head-on. And when they're on the ropes, we don't stop. They'll see exactly what humans are capable of." Mia's response was immediate, her voice hardening with determination. "Roger that. No holding back." Adrian felt the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. This was no longer just a battle. It was a statement. Humanity would not kneel before these invaders. Their arrogance was their greatest weakness, and it would be their downfall. The alien forces, seemingly unprepared for a counterattack, faltered as the ground beneath them trembled with the advance of humanity's tanks. Adrian could see the confusion in their movements, their soldiers scrambling to adjust their strategies. For a moment, he almost felt sorry for them. They had no idea what they were up against. Mia was already ahead of the game. She directed their unit into a flanking position, cutting off the alien retreat. The aliens scrambled, but their advanced weaponry and tactics were no match for the raw, unrefined unpredictability of human resolve. Adrian's voice sliced through the noise like a blade. "Get to the weak point, now!" The team responded without hesitation, a well-oiled machine born of years of training. Tanks rolled, cannons fired, and the ground shook with every move. Adrian didn't flinch, didn't slow. He knew they had only one shot to turn the tide. "Sir, they're deploying that." Mia's voice came over the comms, strained and sharp. "The big one." Adrian's eyes narrowed. He saw it then, a massive alien ship, far larger than the others, descending from the atmosphere. Its hull was armored in a thick, metallic sheen that gleamed in the sunlight, and its weapons were clearly designed to obliterate any opposition. "Take it down!" Adrian barked. "I don't care how. We take it down." His tank surged forward, joining the assault, but even as they fired, Adrian knew it wasn't enough. The alien craft's shields absorbed their shots like water soaking into stone. "I'm not going to just roll over for them," Adrian muttered, gritting his teeth. The battlefield around him was chaos, explosions, dust, and smoke filling the air, but his mind was clear. He had a plan. "Get in close," Adrian ordered, guiding his tank toward the ship's underbelly. "We need to take out their weak spots." The alien craft unleashed a pulse of energy so powerful that it nearly knocked their tank off course. The world shook with the force of it, and Adrian's grip on the controls tightened to the point of pain. He didn't have time to flinch. This was the moment. "Steady, everyone," he growled into the comms. "Focus fire. Now." The tanks roared forward, their combined firepower focusing on the underbelly of the alien craft. The shield flickered, cracked, and finally gave way. The resulting explosion was a moment of pure destruction, satisfying, yes, but far from victory. Mia's voice broke through the radio static, triumph and tension in her tone. "Direct hit, sir. They're reeling." Adrian's eyes locked onto the remaining alien ships in the sky. The tide was turning, but it was far from over. He could feel the pulse of battle in his veins, the weight of responsibility, and the flicker of humanity's hope igniting in the darkest of hours. "Stay on them," Adrian commanded, his voice unwavering. "This is just the beginning." The aliens had underestimated humanity's resolve. Now they were about to find out just how far that resolve could take them. The atmosphere crackled with the tension of impending chaos. Adrian Graves was no stranger to war, but there was something different about the aliens. Their arrogance, their overwhelming confidence in their technology, it made their eventual downfall all the more satisfying. And yet, it also made it harder to predict their next move. He sat in the command seat of his M1 Abrams, the hum of its engine vibrating through his bones. Around him, the battlefield was a blur of dust, smoke, and fire. The once pristine landscape was now a testament to the brutal clash of civilizations. Alien ships, battered and broken, floated above the horizon like vengeful gods waiting to strike. The comms crackled to life again. "Sir, we've got company." Mia Alvarez's voice was sharp, unwavering. "They're coming at us in force." Adrian didn't need to ask who they were. The alien fleet, bloodied but not beaten, was regrouping, focusing their might on the last remaining human resistance. The heat of battle was intensifying by the second. "Hold steady," Adrian ordered, his voice calm despite the rising pressure. He could hear his soldiers moving into position, gearing up for the next wave. His mind raced, not with panic, but with strategy. He had to outthink them, outlast them. They had the power to destroy humanity, he knew that. But they didn't understand humanity's greatest strength, the ability to adapt. A massive alien ship descended slowly, its massive form blocking out the sun for a brief, heart-stopping moment. It was no mere cruiser or warship. This was their flagship, the one that led the charge, the heart of their armada. It was unlike anything humanity had ever seen, sleek, angular, and terrifyingly advanced. "All units, lock onto that flagship," Adrian commanded, his eyes never leaving the ship as it hovered above them. The ground shook with the force of its descent. "We'll need everything we've got to take it down," Mia responded immediately. "You got it. We're going to need more than just the tanks to pull this off." The tension in Adrian's chest tightened. Mia was right. The flagship's shielding system was like nothing they had faced before. It absorbed incoming fire with an eerie efficiency, reflecting their shots back with deadly precision. But Adrian had something the aliens didn't: human ingenuity. He scanned the horizon, his mind moving like clockwork. The alien forces were focused on the main ground assault. That was their mistake. They had forgotten one crucial factor: the unpredictability of humanity's tactics. Where the aliens relied on precision and overwhelming force, humans fought with resourcefulness. "Deploy the drones," Adrian ordered. "I want every one of those shields tested." Mia's voice was back in his ear before he could finish the thought. "Roger that. We're going in hot." Adrian watched a small, nimble drones shot from their positions, darting around the battlefield. Their laser-guided targeting systems flickered and locked onto weak spots along the flagship's underbelly. For a moment, it seemed like the aliens were unfazed, but Adrian had calculated this move. The drone's weapons were never meant to do significant damage. They were distractions, designed to create openings. A ripple of gunfire echoed through the air, as the first of the drones found its mark. A sudden burst of energy cascaded down the side of the flagship, briefly short-circuiting its shield. "Now!" Adrian shouted. The tanks opened fire in unison, their cannons roaring as they unleashed everything they had. The blast hit the weakened shield with a force that sent shockwaves through the ground. The flagship shuddered, but it remained in the sky, defiant. Not enough, Adrian muttered under his breath. The aliens were more resilient than he'd expected. But they hadn't anticipated one thing. We're not done yet, he said, his voice low and determined. The tanks began repositioning, circling in a loose formation. Mia's drones continued their harassing fire, keeping the aliens' attention diverted, allowing the tanks to move in closer, each shot more accurate than the last. Adrian's eyes flicked between the battlefield and the strategy unfolding in his mind. His fingers danced over the controls, communicating with his team without saying a word. The alien forces were beginning to panic. Their shields, which had once been invulnerable, were flickering. The human ingenuity was working. The flagship, now vulnerable, began to slow, as if its creators realized they were losing control. Adrian's eyes narrowed. This was it. Finish it, he growled into the comms, the order final. The tank's shells tore through the last of the shields. Adrian could hear the soft hiss of static on his comms as Mia's voice broke through. Direct hit, sir. The flagship's going down. Adrian exhaled, his chest rising and falling in relief. But the fight was far from over. The alien forces were still regrouping, more ships, more soldiers, more power. Their flagship might have been crippled, but they weren't out of the fight. Prepare for Phase 2, Adrian said, even as the aliens began their counteroffensive. His voice was steady, but inside, he was already thinking 3 steps ahead. We haven't won yet. Not until every last one of them is gone. The air hummed with the tension of a war that was about to reach its bloody climax. The human forces were battered but unbroken, their will to fight as unyielding as the earth beneath their feet. The air in the command center was thick with tension, a barely contained energy that hummed like static. Outside, the battlefield stretched out in chaos, a violent tapestry of fire and smoke. Adrian Graves stood at the front of the room, hands clenched behind his back, eyes glued to the massive screen that dominated the wall. The alien fleet was regrouping, its forces slowly gathering in the sky like a storm about to break. Adrian knew this was coming. They would retaliate with everything they had. The loss of their flagship had shaken them, but it hadn't broken their resolve. And if they brought everything they had left, it would be a fight to the bitter end. Status report, Sergeant. Adrian's voice was calm but firm, betraying none of the anxiety that gnawed at him. All units are in position, sir, Sergeant Mia Alvarez replied. Her voice was steady, but Adrian could hear the strain beneath it. We've got the tanks ready for the next wave. But the aliens are pulling back, they're regrouping. I think they're preparing something big. Adrian's eyes narrowed. We can't wait for them to strike first. His mind raced. He had expected the alien forces to retaliate with brute force, but he also knew they had underestimated humanity's adaptability. Time and again, humans had turned the tide of battle through ingenuity, courage, and sheer willpower. It wasn't just technology or firepower that would save them, it was their resolve. Set up for a counterattack, Adrian said, his tone leaving no room for argument. We need to hit them before they can fully assemble their forces. No more playing defense. The team moved quickly, and Adrian felt the familiar weight of leadership settle onto his shoulders. His soldiers trusted him to guide them, to lead them through whatever horrors lay ahead. And today, they were going to make sure the aliens learned exactly why humanity was a force to be reckoned with. The comms crackled again, this time with a familiar voice, Lieutenant Sarah Jennings. Adrian, you're not going to like this, she said, her tone sharp and urgent. The alien flagship isn't the only problem. We've detected several dozen smaller vessels heading toward the planet's surface, faster than anything we've seen before. How many? Adrian asked, his heart rate quickening. More than we can count, Sarah replied. And they're coming in fast. Too fast for us to intercept. Adrian's mind raced. This was it. The aliens weren't just regrouping, they were preparing for an all-out invasion. The next wave would be a full assault on the planet. They were bringing everything they had. Ready the ground defenses, Adrian ordered, his voice clipped. We need every man and woman in position. We can't let them land. Hold the line at all costs. Mia's voice came in immediately. We're prepped and waiting for your signal, sir. Adrian felt a pang of dread, an unfamiliar sensation in the face of battle. The aliens weren't just here to conquer, they were here to wipe out humanity. But humanity had never been one to give up easily. The first of the alien vessels breached the atmosphere, their sleek, metallic forms cutting through the clouds like knives. Adrian could hear the distant rumble of their descent, the deafening roar of their engines as they drew closer. The entire command center seemed to hold its breath. Adrian turned to Mia, who was standing nearby, her eyes steely with determination. Get those tanks in position. We'll take the fight to them. Mia gave a single nod, her jaw clenched. You got it. As the alien ships descended, the ground shook with the force of their landing. Adrian could see the massive figures of the alien soldiers, their towering forms silhouetted against the flames of the wreckage around them. They were as intimidating as they were relentless, each one a walking weapon, each one prepared to obliterate anything in their path. But Adrian wasn't about to let them have the planet without a fight. Now! He shouted into the comms. The tanks opened fire, their heavy cannons launching shells that exploded in the air, raining fire down upon the alien invaders. The ground trembled with the impact, and for a moment, Adrian allowed himself to feel a flicker of hope. But it was short-lived. The aliens didn't flinch. The first wave of human firepower had barely caused a dent in the alien armor. Their ships, while massive and imposing, were only a part of the assault. The real threat lay on the ground. These were no ordinary soldiers. They were creatures of a different order, their technology far beyond anything humanity had ever faced. Adrian's heart pounded in his chest. The battle was turning. They were outgunned, outmanned, and their firepower, while formidable, was insufficient. This isn't working! Mia's voice crackled over the comms. We need a new plan, or we're going to lose ground. Adrian gritted his teeth, eyes scanning the battlefield. He could feel the weight of the situation pressing in, but he refused to let it consume him. There was always a way out, he just had to find it. A plan. A weakness. Anything. Then, in the chaos of the battle, it hit him. Get the drones in the air, he ordered. We're going after their weak spots. Mia's voice was tinged with disbelief. What weak spots, sir? Their joints, Adrian said, a cold smile forming on his lips. Their technology is advanced, but they didn't design it for flexibility. We'll take them apart one piece at a time. The command center buzzed with activity as the drones launched into the air. Adrian knew this was the only chance they had left, one last push to turn the tide before it was too late. And in the distance, the first of the alien soldiers fell.